housing stock shortage. That the shortage that's really, of course, being felt at all price points and across the housing stock spectrum, if you will, which is well known and identified already. And then finally, identifying a preliminary list of potential eligible housing sites within the current city borders, and specifically within the borders of the city too. And you remember there's that long list with kind of a high level site analysis of each of those sites too, which we discussed when I was up there in person earlier this year. And so then the proposal, again, as I mentioned, really turns the corner and kind of starts to implement this of the next steps of taking a series of those recommendations and bringing them into reality, and ultimately supporting the city goals around housing rehabilitation and construction, as I mentioned, and then leveraging the expertise I think a lot of folks and our team brings to around both known and innovative solutions too around housing. And so from the housing location study, the implementation plan, we're proposing kind of 5 of those in particular services that we'll provide in towards implementing those recommendations. So, and again, you can kind of see this on the bottom right of that page we should all be looking at still. The housing information support, development process review, zoning and development standards review, marketing of available public lands, and then accessory dwelling unit ordinance, some research and writing around that as well too. So at a high level, that's what our proposal centers on, as you've probably seen if you've had a chance to review it. And I'll pivot over to Moira now, who will run through those kind of on a page by page and kind of give a rundown of what we're proposing. So Moira, the show is yours.
Thank you, Mike. Good evening, everyone. For the record, Moira Howenstein. I'm a new senior planner at Bolton & Mink. And we really look forward to helping you with this very important initiative. And we will help you in a very practical way and are proposing to do this in very specific steps. We're calling them services. So if you can follow right now, we would be on the 3rd page of our slide. The first service really intends to develop an online housing information platform. And this includes a city zoning map, which is really an interactive online map that provides your basic zoning information for every parcel, special districts such as redevelopment areas and uses, and of course, with the convenience of it being all in one place, accessible 24/7. And in addition to that, we're proposing to develop the GIS Data Portal. And this is also interactive. And it shows information on existing parcels relating to who owns the parcels, the boundaries, the lot sizes, as well as sidewalk location and conditions, utilities, infrastructure, and any assets that connects to public data. And together, the map and the GIS portal will be hosted by the city website. They're available 24/7 and will allow potential developers to have instant access to this information that would otherwise be delayed in a more traditional format. And with that, we will look at the next slide. And as the second service, we will analyze your current development review process. And the intent behind this is to really look at improvements for making it more streamlined and finding efficiencies to make it easier from submittal to approval, and not just for the applicant, but also for city staff and for you as decision makers. Then we will create a digital PDF that outlines the development process step by step, which will also include the fees and associated applications. And we will include the links digitally, of course, to those documents that are referenced in each step. And the intent, of course, is to make it transparent and very clear, and hopefully lead to quicker decision-making on the developer's side. For service number 3, we intend to offer a review of the zoning and development standards. And as you know, often housing types, materials, technologies change with market trends. And so we intend to go through the standards to better respond to these demands. And for example, we could look at densities or setbacks to accommodate what most builders prefer to fit their model home zone, avoiding variances, which of course always creates delays, and time is money for developers. So we would like to provide suggestions that can accelerate the approval and the streamlining of the process. And then based on that review and with your recommendations on our proposed updates, we would update the zoning code and standards and assist city staff with the adoption. Our fourth service is the assistance with marketing of public lands. And we understand how important it is for the city of International Falls to attract developers. And we intend to help by creating 2 items. The story map is an Esri product, which is GIS based, but it feels more like a dedicated website and has an interactive component to it so that when one clicks on data, it pops up and it can be manipulated and changed as an inquiry by the user. It has demographics, parcel details, and this kind of information will really help the developer who has potential interest on making decisions with immediate information. And then we would like to develop marketing materials for these sites, which can be used to solicit developers and can include some of the previous sites that you have been familiar with through the housing study that Mike referred to. And finally, our final service proposes to include a very practical way of alleviating housing demand, and that is by drafting an accessory dwelling ordinance, whether they're attached, detached, basement conversions. We will first look at those communities that have been successful with their ordinances, especially on the implementation side, and then we will adapt those lessons learned and those best practices to International Falls and make the ordinance unique to you, of course. And with that, we will support the adoption of the ordinance. And we will obviously support staff to get that through the process. Finally, on the last slide, you will see this is your Bolton and Mank team, which was custom built to help you with this housing implementation. And you can see it includes a planner, several senior planners, and an architect. We propose the following fees, which are broken down by task and hours. And with that, we are here to take any of your comments and answer any of your questions. Thank you so much for the opportunity, and thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you. That was a real good presentation. And then I'd like to let any of our members here of IFEDA ask questions if they have any about your proposal. It looks, to me, it looks really good. I'm not sure where everybody else is, but we do need to get going on housing bad. It's the first step of moving on, and it's been stagnant for a long time. So, yeah, anybody here got any questions for them? Okay, Harley.
I'm looking at the proposal, and a couple of the services, and you had already pointed out, is going to be working with staff. For service 1, doing the housing information support and being able to put up the GIS and the zoning map, how much time is that going to take up of Todd for our website and website design? And then secondly, how are we going to be incorporating Kelly, our building official, who also does zoning for service 2 and 3? And how involved are they going to be on the project as this moves forward?
Yeah, wonderful questions. Appreciate all of those. Starting with your first one on the GIS, very little time, fortunately. As part of that 2022 housing implementation study, we already worked and pulled a lot of the GIS data that the city already has, and Bolton and Mank has already been working alongside the city. And so it's actually fairly simple and relatively short time to take that information, confirm and or update it with city staff, and then to pull it onto a separate website, which we can kind of host the main landing page, if you will, but then the link can be hosted on a city website, on a city page rather. So of course we'll talk with both Ted and Kelly prior to finalize any of those maps, but very, very simplistic, very little of their actual time. And then in terms of Kelly specifically, who we did get to know during our during the housing study, of course, we'll set expectations and kind of staff desires and needs at an initial kickoff meeting for all of these tasks, assuming awarding of the proposal, and that'll give a good sense of kind of what outstanding needs they see, what needs the Bolton and Mink team will have, and then setting a realistic expectation and schedule of getting information that we need or sharing with them. And then of course, like for all of our projects, before any major deliverables or kind of milestones, we vet it and check in with city staff regularly to ensure no surprises, but also information is accurate and kind of what's really desired and needed. So our approach is always hand in hand with city staff. And then forgive me if there's another question. I think that may have, okay, excellent.
You answered both of my questions. Then my last question is for this board and maybe even the city administrator. All of these funds that the proposed $45,000 that would come out of the EDA fund, correct? And it's all money, not necessarily that have been budgeted, but there is money available there to do a project such as this.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Those were my two questions.
Well, that was a good question. Yep.
Mike, I'm just looking at the proposal as well, and you have a total estimated time of about 230 hours, but in real time with gathering data and information, what is, with just off the top of your head, off the cuff, what do 2-3 months? What do you think the timeline looks like to implement all of these that you have laid out here?
Yeah, excellent question, Betty. I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, kind of again, off the cuff, I think kind of 3 to 4 months sounds like a good timeline, knowing that there's quite a bit to do, but also quite a bit of headway we've already started kind of leveraging the prior plan. I think for sure, 2 of the longer ones that'll a little bit depend on the intensity of recommendations and update will be Service 3, the zoning review, and then Service 5, the ADU, accessory dwelling unit ordinance. Those 2 have the potential to maybe stretch a little bit longer. So I don't want to stand here and commit to in 3 months everything will be done. But I think kind of in that 3 to 6 month window, I would anticipate having the bulk of this done for sure.
Any other questions for the team for this proposal? Walt, Joel, yeah, yeah, I'm good. Okay, so now what we got is we can have a little more discussion, or we can move on with council action. Would you like any more discussion on it? I mean, it's in my opinion that we've been without housing projects all these years. And it's time to get moving, and I think this will help a lot.
Just go and comment. I'm just glad that we are taking the study that we did and seeing it through,
right?
And not setting it on the shelf. And a year from now, we wonder, my pet peeve was all the studies we do and it sits on the shelf. If we're not going to follow anything through, then don't even do the study. And this is a good study to go on.
So before we vote on this with action, how do you feel, Joe? Do you feel the same way that Walt does?
Yeah.
Okay.
I know that this was the next step in the housing study that we got. So,
okay.
I'm happy that it's coming through the EDA.
Yeah.
Utilize it. My biggest pet peeve with the EDA has always been we carry that budget and don't do anything with it.
Sure.
So that's what this is for, right?
Yep.
EDA is currently working on a fairly large project that's going to bring in jobs. And quite frankly, we had our Cushing Housing Collaborative meeting this morning. It's the same old. It's been that since 2018. If we don't have housing, we don't have housing. I'm being proactive about it and doing something about it.
Well, I like to see this council moving forward on it.
Yeah.
So, Arlie, you feel the same way?
I agree with Walt wholeheartedly. I hate seeing all of the studies that were done in the past that did not move forward. We have a couple that we're working on through other means, but this is the most current one that we've gotten. This council has saw it, we've looked at it, we added to it, we made it our own, and so I support this and the budget for it.
Yeah.
I'm in agreement. Move forward.
Okay. Now we're gonna I'm gonna need a motion to.
I make the motion to move forward with Bolton Link for the housing implementation proposal.
Second, we got Walt Bowler on the second. Any discussion? Any more discussion on this?
Just make it clear the funding's coming out of the EDA.
Out of the EDA. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion passed 5-0. Whoa. Going through it. I'm excited.
Going to be at
about
the next council meeting? Or just
No, because this is an independent.
that. Mike and Maury, good job. It passed, okay? We're gonna keep moving.
Excellent. Thank you, and excited to work alongside you all still. Thank you.
Yeah.
Same here.
Good. Okay, now we got one more thing tonight. B on the new business.
Just got them to kick off.
So we have Troy Mankey here. And Troy Mankey, if I'm saying the last name right, no, if I'm not, you can throw rocks at me or whatever. But he's going to give the city council and anybody here that's here tonight for this meeting how he feels about what could be done for housing in International Falls to get moving, investors, and the whole. And I visited with Troy, spent some time with him, and he seemed like, you know, talking about. We've had some people that said good things about him. So I invited him to come tonight to talk housing because it's high on our list.
Basically, a little bit about myself. I've been in construction since I've been about 8 years old. Lived in Grand Forks, North Dakota, transferred out to Chicago, Gurney, Illinois, transferred to Watertown, South Dakota, transferred to Bemidji, transferred up to International Falls. So I've had my share of construction, buildings, developments in towns, all that stuff. I worked for Menards. I also ran my independent contractor company, cabinet install company at the same time, so very ambitious. But basically what it comes down to, I moved here in 2018. And the thing that I've seen, and we've all talked about it, I've heard you even just say it again today, is there's nowhere to rent. A lot of things have been closing, a lot of things have been going down. I've seen more closing since I've got here than opening of businesses. And we all understand that part of it. It's what can we do about it? If you guys get into the community of the big business and different businesses, what they're saying, I've tried to hire a floor cleaning company just for Menards. Apparently that's where I work. So I've been doing it for 32 years. And their biggest thing is I went through 5 different companies. There's nowhere to rent. There's nowhere to bring in management. There's nowhere to house anybody, that type of thing. So I got talking about it. There's other people that have stopped in Menards and talked to me about it. There's other people that have the same views on it in town. There's not enough expansion development. The town is kind of landlocked right now, if you want to call it that. I've looked at your guys' reviews of what open lots and that stuff are. I can't imagine somebody building a brand new house in the middle of downtown that they're built in the 40s. The reason being is because there's no resale. So it has to have a start of a development on an edge of town or somewhere that we can expand out, whether we get it from county and swap something out, whatever we do. As far as what type of housing, there's senior housing that's like 2 houses with 2 garages attached. There's senior apartment complexes. There's even getting with the hospitals and that and doing senior, what do you want to call it, elder care type thing. They can build housing and stuff like that as well. But it's the city getting a hold of them and talking to them and maybe enticing them to have that type of stuff. From what I understand in this town, there's quite a few elders in the town, really nowhere to go. The housing development, since I've got here, I pretty much drove down every street in this town to look at houses. I would bet that a good 45 to 50% are single pane windows. They're outdated siding, they're outdated shingles, their buildings are falling down. There's all kinds of what I would consider ordinance failures. I know building inspectors have their jobs cut out. I know all that stuff, but basically it comes into how do we develop the town and grow the town? There has to be something for them to move out into and move up. Most people aren't going to move out of their old house because there's nothing else to move in that's better. I don't have a drive to work anymore because I only have to pay this rent. I don't have to move up. I don't have a drive to go up and get a better job, do that type of thing. So there's no getting better, no drive for the person. They just sit in the same spot. They just, I'm content. This is where it is. We're not going to do anything. So really as a city, it's how can we expand? How can we make it better for everybody living here and give them options to advance up in their housing, advance up in their lives, be more productive, everything. All of it goes into it, whether it's handicapped or seniors or regular people. Everybody has a thing. I still haven't bought a house that's decent. So, and it's been a long time, but the whole process of everything is what do you do? How do you make it better? If you don't have skills to build and do this stuff and change your own house, and right now the biggest thing is there isn't a contractor in town that I've talked to that is now 1.5 to 2 years in building. It's just not happening. I have had other people come from out of town that are contractors that I'm familiar with, and they would be willing to move here and develop if the city was investing into what their development would be. They have stopped here. I've talked to them. Right now, we're kind of limited with you guys' research that you guys did with what available lots and stuff are open. That's kind of limiting where they can build and what they can do. There's really no development. We're going to bring the town this way. They can put gas stations up. They can put all kinds of different things in those areas to build and extend it. You've got the airport that landlocks part of it, that they need expansion. They got to have that stuff. We've got to make sure that they have future years. What I've dealt with in the other cities and stuff, Watertown, South Dakota was like 4,000 people in there. I will tell you right now, they've got the senior housing, they've got the developments going, they got the assisted livings going, they've got apartment complexes going, they got new hotels, new motels, new gas stations, all that stuff. They're getting much more developed over the time because they put in plan a 10-year plan, a 20-year plan. This is our expansion setup for the city and what we're going to do. And then as far as a lot of these rentals, if they're going to get pushed into doing all these repairs, the owners are going to want to sell it and kick out the renters because they're not going to want to put all the money into it. So then we're going to have more people out not being able to be housed, that type of thing. And that's what I've already heard some of that through the city attack. I'm not really a public speaker, but I'm just kind of rattling here. These are
doing
the
a good
things.
job of speaking.
These are the things that I've noticed over the time that I've been here. It seems like the city wants to grow right now. It's obviously with the investing and that type of stuff. And I mean, I've seen a lot of this stuff just added into the building code and that type of stuff that they're talking about. I've seen it just, this is what our inspector has to look for. These are our codes. This is what it is. And it's a great step to have them help get everything that we want in there. I don't know that it's always limited to what they have. Over my years of building, it's what assessments and what additions do you want to add to the city so that we have a standard. And then basically that's the implementation of everything. Certain codes, certain restrictions, 10 foot from the sidewall, so many feet from the curb, that type of stuff. Front's got to be set at this. I mean, in the building trade, it's kind of, to me, standard, but to everybody else that hasn't been in the building, this is a good start that you're doing with this. But I think it still needs to grow off of that and still needs to be bigger than what this is. Because to me, this would be just the groundwork and the start of what we can keep going. I don't know if a committee needs to be made of zoning, building. There's federal grants, there's state grants for building. There's houses that are built in towns for low-income families that certain businesses participate, and they send a team over there to put sheetrock up, put shingles up. That way the person that's buying the house only pays for what the materials are, like at a 4% rate. The Department of Equalization, getting them more involved in getting the updates and the stuff done for the elderly housing that's out there. Getting the windows, getting the insulation, getting all that stuff done. There's a lot of programs and a lot of things, but I think to set it up, there has to be some type of group, committee, whatever it might be, that handles all these things to bring them in. I don't think anybody sitting here right now knows how much funding, how many at the federal and state level that we can get to improve the city on all the different aspects of the housing and commercial development of it. So it's a way to get it into there, but I mean, there has to be something that we are going to, in the next couple of years, get developers in here and get something in, whether we got to put streets in, whether we've got to put sewers in, whether we got to get a development started and then entice them to come in. Once we get them in, that's when it starts progressing because, oh, this guy's over here. We want in on that. We want in on that. It's kind of a drive thing. And the bigger developers are not like the guys that most guys we have in town right now. I mean, I don't know that I would say 50% are licensed, contracted, bonded. I don't know that that's even true at this point because I can't get numbers from them either. So, and being a guy that's been it, did it, I understand that part of it. So that's why I'm saying if we can get some of this in, get some of the change, there'll be more businesses. And I know in town, a lot of the little businesses want to buy local. And I'm absolutely for that. The biggest thing about me is the more business we have in, it doesn't take away from business. It adds to business. So in turn, the way I look at it is the smaller business, they have to have a higher markup. It's the way it is in business. I went to school for that too, college, UND. But they have to have a higher price. If they can sell it at a lower price, they're going to sell more. So if they can get more people in town and we can get more people going through there, they're going to be able to lower it, hire more people on, still have that, what we call how many turns of product you do. And that's where they're going to be making their money and staying ahead as well. I don't mean to badger them, but their product all isn't made in town here. It's bought from somewhere else and brought in, and they're selling it local. So we have to do something as well to bring in and keep the community going as a whole. So, and I really haven't seen a lot since I've been here. We talked, I think you said 1990 was the last big, 93, somewhere in there.
Somewhere in there in the 80s, late 80s.
So it's been quite a few years.
A long time.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm not really a facilitator of this. I don't know. I plan on moving again, so I'm not going to be here for another 10 years. I'm going to be here as soon as they say, here's your store, I'm leaving again. So it's kind of one of those things. I have one of the other guys from the store here with me. If there is more concern when I'm not here, he knows how to get a hold of me. We can talk and do that stuff, and he'll have advice and that type from me. But I definitely would like to see the community and the town grow. I know we talked about like even the electrical plugins for the cars and all that type of stuff. But I know in other towns that I've been, they've been granted those from a lot of the car manufacturers and stuff. They actually donate some of that stuff if you actually ask for that. So part of it's getting their name out there, getting it up. Being the most northern city that I know of, I would have to assume they would be enticed to donate or that type of stuff, but it's investigation and that type and having somebody actually do it. I'm sorry. So when we get into that, it's just we want to make sure that the town has the option to grow, get bigger. I don't know which way. You got industrial park that's got to be bigger. You got to be able to grow industrial wilds. You got to be able to grow the airport. You got to grow with the town. Everything's got to be in uniform situations. So that's kind of what I wanted to talk about. I mean, I do have other ideas and stuff. If you ever want to call me and talk to me, I mean, I'm open for all that. I've had a lot of experience in different areas of that stuff. So it's not always what you want to hear, but we gotta make sure that we're taking care of everybody. And I think this town deserves to be, as good as it possibly can. So
This has gotten to be a aging town, elderly.
what's that?
Gotten to be an elderly town. I mean, we do have a few young people.
No, this is a broad span of everything. It's
Everything,
not
yeah?
just cutting
Okay.
one part of this.
Yeah.
You have to have apartment complexes for people to move from the older complexes to the newer ones. And it's even regular houses as far as affordable living and high-end living. There's got to be some of those that are put in. I know I've talked to people that they're looking for 4-bedroom houses. They're looking for this. They got kids.
So it's a
What's
variety.
available. Yeah. It's
It's a
not
variety.
so much all the time that it's the price or the senior or the assisted living or any of the low income. It's everybody in a whole as the town. It's growing the industrial park. It's growing the airport. It's growing the whole community as a whole. So we can get more businesses in here. I don't know that there's a huge amount. I mean, Walmart would be great up here. I mean, be one of those things you want to bring in just because everybody goes to Walmart in Bemidji. I don't know of anybody I've talked to that doesn't. They're always down there. I got to stop in there. I got to go there. And it's going to happen over time, one way or another. It's not unless we stop building and shut the town down. And right now, if we do that, I see everything trying to leave in here. Everything's going down. Old houses need to be torn down. New houses need to be put up. It needs to be a project for the town to say, hey, this is what we're going to try and do. This is what we're going to try and make better. And the more people that we're going to have in here and the more businesses, doesn't mean we have to raise the house taxes so much on everybody. It works back and forth because you got a bigger tax base. You got more people paying taxes. It doesn't have to keep going up. And I'm not complaining about house taxes, but I'm just saying it is a benefit for the people that are here as a community. So
If the community grows and we raise taxes, taxes go down. So I mean,
Exactly.
it makes perfect
Yeah.
sense.
I mean, it's economics. It's 101, but
I spent time with Green Tech the other day with the owners, and their biggest issue is they're getting employees for coming in. Some of them actually are leaving from the paper mill and going there. But their biggest thing is it's the housing situation. No place for people that to draw them in here to work for Green Tech because there's no housing for them.
Yeah,
And
and
that's right at the top of their list.
if we set up a few of those developments, even as we're starting, you're going to see people being more interested in, hey, maybe I can get in one of those. Maybe I can do that. And it's going to open up doorways. Even if they can't get into the new, somebody's going to move out of an old into the new. And there's still going to be an opening somewhere, is what I'm trying to say. And you can kind of go up the chain as you're trying to better off yourself and your family instead of just staying in, this is what we've had for 30 years and that's where we're staying.
So, do any of you guys have any questions for them that you like to run past them.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, appreciate it. Okay, I'm going to adjourn this meeting. That's all that was on the new business that I know of that was written. So, meeting adjourned.